He knew everyone's secrets, and then he started blackmailing them, one by one. Imagine opening your mailbox and finding a letter from someone who knows all your secrets. Everything from where you go, who you talk to, and what you're trying to hide. In 1977, the people of Circleville, Ohio began receiving letters from an anonymous writer. The letters were angry, threatening, and personal, and even after all these years, the writer of these letters still remains unknown. Circleville, Ohio was the kind of small town where privacy was fragile. Everyone seemed to know everyone. So when anonymous letters started arriving in 1977, they didn't feel random. They felt targeted. Even though multiple residents received anonymous threatening letters, the writer seemed particularly obsessed with a school bus driver named Mary Gillispie. The letters accused her of having an affair with Gordon Massey, the local school superintendent. But the writer did not simply accuse. They warned Mary to stop, and if not, threatened to expose her publicly. But the most disturbing part was not just what the letters said. It was how much the writer seemed to know about Mary. The routes Mary drove, the people around her, the private details of her life. Whoever was writing these letters was not some distant stranger. They felt close, a bit too close. Mary's husband, Ron Gillispie, eventually learned about the letters. At first, the family tried to deal with it privately. They shared the letters with only a few people close to them. Then, on August 19, 1977, Ron received a phone call. Whatever was said on that call, although unknown, made him furious. He grabbed his gun and left the house. And not long after, Ron was found dead. His car had crashed into a tree. Authorities ruled it an accident, but there were details that never sat right with people close to the case. Ron had taken his gun with him, and the gun had reportedly been fired. And since the letter writer had already been threatening the family, many believed that he had something to do with Ron's death, and it was not just an accident. And after Ron's death, the letters did not stop. They actually got worse. The Circleville writer did not only send letters to Mary. Over time, the letters spread. Neighbors, officials, business owners, even people connected to the case. The writer seemed to enjoy watching the town turn against itself. The letters accused and threatened people. They exposed rumors. They were not just messages. They were psychological attacks. And they created an atmosphere where everyone had to wonder the same thing. Is the person writing this someone I know? In 1983, the case escalated. Mary was driving her school bus route when she noticed a sign posted along the road. It was another message aimed at her. She got out, and she went to remove it. But behind the sign was a box. Inside that box was a loaded gun. It had been rigged in a way that would have fired when the sign was pulled. It did not work, and Mary survived. But this was no longer just anonymous harassment. This was an attempted killing. Police examined the weapon and traced it to Paul Freshour, a man connected to Mary's family through marriage. Freshour denied setting the trap. He said that his gun had been stolen, but investigators believed they had their man. And soon, Paul Freshour was charged with attempted murder. In October 1983, he went on trial. He was not charged with writing the Circleville letters, but the letters became a major part of the case. The prosecution argued that the handwriting on the booby trap resembled the anonymous letters. Freshour maintained his innocence. There were no fingerprints tying him directly to the gun or the box. But the weapon had belonged to him, and that was enough. He was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to prison. For many people in Circleville, this felt like the end. They thought the writer had finally been caught. The letters would stop. But that is not what happened. While Paul Freshour was still in prison, the letters continued. That single fact is the reason why the Circleville case refuses to die. According to later reporting, Freshour was placed under strict restrictions. He did not have easy access to pens or paper. His mail was also closely monitored. Yet anonymous letters kept appearing. Some were sent to people connected to the case. Some were sent to journalists. And according to some reports, Freshour himself even received one such letter behind bars. These facts made everyone question that whether the true letter writer had actually escaped and managed to frame someone else for his crimes. The existing theories revolve around three main possibilities. The first is that Paul Freshour was responsible and somehow found a way to keep the letters going from prison. But that theory had multiple loopholes and seemed unlikely. The second theory is that someone else wrote the letters and set the trap, using Freshour's gun to point the police towards him. That would mean the Circleville writer was not only cruel, they were calculating. The third possibility is the darkest. Maybe more than one person was involved. Maybe the letters were never just sent by one writer. Maybe the secrets in Circleville were being exposed by people who knew exactly how to keep the entire town afraid. And if that is true, then the letters were not just threats. They were control. After nearly 2 decades, the Circleville letters eventually stopped. But the mystery never ended and remains unsolved to this day. No one has ever been definitively proven to be the anonymous writer. Mary Gillispie survived the booby trap, but Ron Gillispie died without answers. Paul Freshour went to prison still denying he wrote the letters. But the most terrifying possibility still remains. The Circleville writer may have been living among them the entire time, watching, waiting, and enjoying every letter as he terrorized the entire town for several years. Who do you think wrote the letters, and did they get away with it? Comment your theories below, and for more such content, subscribe to the Phantom Casebook.